Welcome, everyone. Many people in Canada and across the world are struggling with their weight. According to the World Health Organization, there is a new epidemic of obesity, bringing with it many health challenges. Is there something that we can do about this? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today with Beth Blackmore. Beth is a health and empowerment coach who helps people lose weight and live their best healthy lives. But before I welcome her on, you all know that I'm an information junkie and a numbers girl. So, of course, I went straight to Statistics Canada to get the skinny on the weight issue for Canadians. Now, it's from the Canadian Community Health Survey of 2018. That's sort of the latest data I was able to find. I'm sure they will update it at some point. But let's just take a look at this chart because I think it puts a lot of things in context for Canadians. So as you can see, this chart is looking at the percentage of adults that are underweight, that's the light purple, normal weight, that's the red, overweight, that's the dark blue, or obese, and that is the light blue by age group. So what is the story that this chart is telling us? Well, it shows how people's weights change as they get older. So, for example, when people are young, like 18 and 19 years, most of them, about 60%, let's say, are at a normal weight. And that's why in the first column, the red block is sizable. But as people get older, say on the other extreme of 65 years plus, more of them, we're talking about 70%, I'm just eyeballing it here, become overweight or obese. That's why the dark and light blue blocks dominate the last column. The most interesting thing for me, though, about this chart is where the dramatic shift occurs. And that happens to be in the 35 to 49 years group. This is when the percentage of adults with normal weight becomes smaller. We're talking about roughly 30%. So maybe this is the group to empower so that things don't get out of control. Who knows? I'm just speculating. Well, why does weight matter? According to the same StatCan article where I found the data, obesity has been linked with many chronic conditions, including hypertension, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, osteoarthritis, and certain cancers. So this is why I was interested in talking to Beth. So without further ado, let me welcome in Beth. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm great. I'm honored to be here. I'm so excited that you asked me to join this podcast. I'm super excited to share my story.
Oh, I heard about your story. I thought it was great. You, for example, lost 60 pounds. Wow, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's actually been quite a journey. It started 6 years ago, so March of 2019. So it's 6 years, like right around now. And it's been a journey. And of course it was a journey, I think, to get to that state of health or ill health that I was experiencing prior to March of 2019 when I really decided to make a change in my health. So, prior to that, what led me to change was the fact that I was concerned about my not my weight. I was actually concerned about my physical symptoms that I was
Oh,
experiencing.
you look great, by the way, I have to
Thank
say.
you. Thank you.
Do you have a picture of the before and after?
I do. I do.
Okay,
Um,
well, let's take a look at it.
sure.
Wow. there it looks like two different people actually.
Mhm.
But that's, looks are just superficial. I'm just wondering, what were those health issues? Because some people actually are overweight, but they don't have any major health issues. So what kind of health issues did you have?
So, I mean, for years I experienced migraine headaches, tension headaches. I had stiff and sore joints. I had skin and eye irritation, anxious, had this anxiety, exhaustion. And then, things were really ramping up. I found in frequency and intensity. So my migraines, my headaches were getting more frequent, more intense. And then all of a sudden, I started to have high blood pressure when I went to my doctor's office, when I went to my dentist's office. So that was really concerning for me. I, and to be honest, I knew I was overweight. I didn't know how overweight I was. I didn't own a scale. That was not really my concern. I was a busy professional working mom, busy life with two boys in hockey. And I was just going through the rat race of life, the treadmill of life, and I wasn't necessarily concerned about my weight. But what I was concerned about were these physical symptoms that were creeping up on me more and more. And I feel like they were my body's cries for help. And I ignored them for years until it was probably January of 2019.
So Beth, were you on high blood pressure meds and stuff? Is that, or did you just ignore the fact that you had high blood pressure?
Well, it's interesting. So I think I first discovered I had high blood pressure when I went to my dentist's office and they were doing just kind of this routine blood pressure check. And I thought, okay. And so it was high, and I chalked it up to the fact, and they weren't too concerned either. And we kind of chalked it up to the fact that I'm in a dentist's office and maybe I hadn't eaten yet because it was an 8:30 appointment. And so I just kind of brushed it off, but I was still thinking, okay, is this normal? Is this of concern? And then I would go to my doctor's office and the same thing. And so it seemed to be chalked up to like the white coat syndrome,
Mhm.
where I might be in this stressful situation. The doctor with the white lab coat is taking my blood pressure. And so she would step out for a couple of rounds of the blood pressure readings, and it would, kind of lower naturally after, quite a few takings. But it was still playing in the back of my mind that it seemed to be more common, more often that I would experience high blood pressure. Now, there was never a discussion about blood pressure medication or, how to treat my high blood pressure. So we just kind of let it slide. But it was definitely one of the symptoms I was worried about in conjunction with all of these other things that were going on with my body that I was concerned about.
Okay. So let me just circle back to why you gained the weight in the first place. What,
Yeah.
what was that all about?
Well, thinking back, at the time, I don't think we're conscious. I really don't think we're conscious and making these conscious changes all the time in terms of healthy choices. I think, unfortunately, as a society, we have been conditioned and programmed to eat a certain way and live a certain way and think that this is normal. So, I'm eating the standard Western, standard Canadian diet and thinking, well, it's not like I'm eating takeout or processed food every day, right? I'm not doing that. But I am eating more convenience foods, more foods high in refined carbohydrates. Um, I feel also I was likely stuffing feelings down with food. So, things that have gone on in my life,
Oh,
emotional eating.
emotional eating, yeah, that's a big
Yeah,
one for many.
right. And I think too, the comfort foods, unfortunately, are a lot of the times the addictive foods. They have these addictive properties in them and they are convenient. So the processed convenient foods have taken over. I think, unfortunately, we're also living in a society um, that is based on this 9 to 5 rat race. And so it's hard to fit in. homemade meals all the time. When two parents are out of the house and we're working and then the kids have stuff on the go, it's definitely a challenge to or and I think also though I think the biggest thing though is that it is normalized to eat a certain way with convenience foods and more highly processed foods. It's quick, it's easy, and it's more realistic for people.
Mhm. Makes sense. Yeah, that's everybody's subject to all of that because of all the stresses and the lifestyle in the Western world and certainly probably everywhere else at this point. Um, what, so it was the blood pressure, it was migraines, skin issues, anything else that inspired you to take control?
Well, actually, so the picture that we just showed on there, the before picture, that was actually in late January of 2019. So that was one of the last pictures that was taken of me when I was 60 pounds heavier. That was actually on a trip in Cuba when I was traveling with my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law, and my niece. And unfortunately, on that trip, within I think the first 2 days, I had come down hard on my knee when I was swimming in the waves in the ocean. And so for the next couple of days on the resort, it was this beautiful, massive resort. I was hobbling around on this bum knee, and it was this swollen, sprained knee. I got home from the trip, and I had to lay up in bed because it was so bad and swollen. So, I mean, I had stiff and sore joints for many years. And I think, I think I thought, if I was active and exercising, so I've always had a fairly active lifestyle in terms of exercising and doing high impact aerobics, having a gym membership. But with 60 pounds of extra weight, I think that that was a lot to carry on my poor knee joints. And
Yep.
so I was always susceptible
Mhm.
to knee injury, knee inflammation. But that was a bit of a wake up call for me, that January 2019 trip. And so when I got home, I dug in to go start with physio because I thought, well, this is ridiculous. Like, I need to commit to physio 3 times a week to get my knee in better shape. And so I started doing that. And meanwhile, it was also though I was starting to really tune in to how I was feeling otherwise, not just this acute knee injury, but just the fatigue, the anxiety, the skin and eye irritation constantly, the bloated feeling, um, anxiety, as I mentioned, um, the high blood pressure, the migraines, the headaches. It was all ramping up. And what's interesting is that I knew that I needed to find these answers out for myself. I didn't have a discussion with my doctor. And it's interesting, before I went on the trip to Cuba, I did have an annual physical with my doctor. I didn't ask how much I weighed. She noted it down. We didn't have a discussion about my weight.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just kind of a non-issue.
So, but did you ever feel that, oh, got extra weight on me? I really, you know, um, I need to do something about that. Did you ever feel that way?
I
Even
did. I did. It was always in the back of my mind. And I think I would kind of go through, different phases of trying to rein it in. Um, but it really wasn't a priority for me. And I
Mm,
think honestly, in the back deep dark recesses of my subconscious mind, I knew what I had to do. And I was not prepared to do it yet because I knew it was going to be a whole lifestyle overhaul.
mhm.
And I
So,
just thought, well, we always hear that it's, losing weight and getting healthy is so difficult. It's a challenge, and I'm not ready for that challenge in my life yet. So and it wasn't that I was on, constant diets or trying fad diets all the time. It wasn't like that. It was almost like I was in this apathetic state that I just kind of accepted it. I knew I was getting older. I thought the best years were behind me.
mhm.
And I thought, I'm a mom and I'm a professional HR professional at the time, and busy with my boys and hockey, and I just put myself on the back burner.
So, how did you discover that psychological part of things where you realized, oh, there's some emotional eating going on?
I don't think I didn't really acknowledge that until I think I had started my health journey. For me, it wasn't that I knew that I was consciously emotional eating and I needed to control that. And that was what was contributing to my ill health and my weight gain. It was actually more about, digging in and discovering, why am I having these physical symptoms? What is going on with my health? And digging in for myself, not going to the doctor, but really these physical symptoms were what propelled me to research. Okay, what is this high blood pressure about? What is the skin and eye irritation all about? What are the stiff joints all about? What's the high blood pressure? So, and then I realized that it was about insulin resistance, and I that wasn't a term that I was familiar with.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, so meanwhile, I'm thinking, okay, I thought there was something major going on with my body in terms of like a major diagnosis or the label that we like to slap on it, right?
Hmm.
Um, but when I realized that this was likely caused by what I was eating in terms of my food choices
Hmm.
and my lifestyle habits, with my eating habits, I then realized, oh, okay, so I've gotten to this state, whether it was the cravings and the temptations with the carbs, whether it was overeating, whether it was my food choices, I started to become consciously aware that I had got myself into that predicament and I was in control to get myself out of it. So it really was this conscious awakening. It was unlearning what I thought health was, because I didn't really know that food is fuel. I feel that, again, in this age of convenience and consumerism, we are bombarded with fast food. We're bombarded with the brand name foods.
Yep.
We're bombarded with the way of eating that we see on, entertainment TV. And to be honest, what we're conditioned with in our environment, societal conditioning, childhood conditioning, all of that plays a role, and
Big.
it just builds and builds and builds. And so once this light bulb went off for me, it was this massive awakening.
I bet. Yeah. And so you were already exercising, even at a higher weight.
Mhm.
But I guess through your research, you maybe understood more about the dietary piece. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. And I think I realized, I don't know what the ratio is, but I mean, I've heard the quote that you can eat yourself through any exercise routine, meaning that the food that we eat is really what is paramount to our health
Mhm.
and our weight.
Yeah, I think it's something like you can't exercise your way out of a bad
Yes.
diet.
Yes, that's it.
And by the
That's it.
way, we nutritionists call the general North American diet the SAD diet. Uh,
Right.
it's the standard American diet. It's,
Yes.
pizzas, donuts, pop, that sort of thing. So, anyways, I guess you came to realize that, uh-oh, I've got some of these things in my diet and they're not working for me.
That's exactly it. And so when this light bulb went off, I realized it wasn't actually that I was overwhelmed. I felt empowered that I now had this knowledge and, that I could change the trajectory of my life. And that so I had the control to change it and feel a whole heck of a lot better. And again, my motivation wasn't around losing the weight, it was around feeling better.
Mhm.
And so once I learned that, it was a big motivating factor for me. I just wanted to feel better, and I knew that I was going to feel better relatively quickly. I knew I was going to be successful. I knew that I was going to get myself out of it. There was never a question. There was never a doubt. I knew what I needed to do. It was very clear. I had this clarity of mind, and it was empowering. It wasn't overwhelming.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's really fascinating that, somewhere in the back of your mind, you didn't doubt that you had control over this
Yes.
thing, right? Over
Yes.
the situation, your health situation. So that's really great. Um, and that's why I guess you're going on to empower others to do the same because you're an example of the fact that it can be done.
I truly believe if I can do it, I know it's so cliche. I feel if I can do it, anybody can do it because I know that I had a very, strong addiction. I had a sugar addiction. I had a refined carb addiction. And unfortunately, I think that that is deliberate out there, for the food industry to have us addicted. Um, and so once you switch over to this like a nutrient dense whole food way of eating, no matter what, and I'm not going to, necessarily promote any one diet over another. I just feel once I was able to get rid of the trifecta of ultra processed foods, with the refined carbs, the sugars, the seed oils, vegetable oils, um your body is able to reset. This was like the biggest reset of my life, was being able to go into this fat adaptation mode instead of a glucose burning machine. It became a fat burning machine. And so not only was I obviously burning the fat um, on my body, but also, utilizing the healthy fats that I was consuming, and, not shying away from the butters and the ghees and the, extra virgin olive oil, lard, and beef tallow, So,
You know what I find inspiring about your story is the fact that you started doing your research, so that's a sign of being empowered.
mhm,
And once you gathered that knowledge, a lot of people have obstacles after gathering the knowledge, including myself. You gather the knowledge, and then you have trouble adapting and implementing that knowledge.
yes,
So that's where some people have the obstacles. We all know what we need to do
right,
generally. And then we can research all that and find out, yep, that's what we need to do.
yes,
But knowledge is power only if you implement it.
that's right.
And for you, it was kind of a no-brainer. Okay, I have the knowledge, I'm just going to implement it. So
Mhm.
that's inspiring.
Thank you. Well, you know what else is key? And now that I have, gone through this journey, and I've also done some other certification coaching work, and um, again, information gathering and research, I truly believe the power of our mind plays a huge role in how successful we are. And so when I look back to, okay, how was I successful? Why was I successful? And
Mhm.
how was I able to continue to be successful? I truly believe it is about repetition, inundating ourselves with positive, empowering content and messaging.
You bet.
So, turning off the TV, turning off the disempowering messages, tuning out society's version of what health is. Um, it's this conscious awareness of knowing that what you know, and then being able to tune out what no longer serves you, but really tuning in to what is going to propel you forward and make you successful. So when I made that switch in March of 2019, I was very deliberate in terms of, I was like a sponge. I was constantly immersing myself in content about health, about eating, about recipes, about, listening to health experts and gurus, which I hadn't listened to really ever. Like every now and then, sure, I knew exercise was, important, and all of that was, but it was always on the back burner. So this time I feel like I just inundated myself with it, and I made a deliberate choice. And so this content was on repeat. And so with the subconscious mind that controls 95% of our thoughts and behaviors, you really need to do some deliberate work to reprogram it, to get out of your comfort zone, get out of the familiar, get out of what you thought you knew to be true, or even what you didn't think, because it's just programmed in your mind,
Right.
in order to rewrite it, in order to, now your new normal is on autopilot with the information that you are, now are aware of and that you can implement in your life. So
Yeah,
You
it
know, when
takes
I
a
work,
while. It actually
yes,
takes a while.
yes.
You get those repeated messages. It takes apparently, according to neuroscience, 21 days to
Mhm,
actually reprogram your mind. So that if you're consuming that kind of health content over and over and
mhm.
over, at some point it's going to be part of you.
That's right.
And then you can, start to implement. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's pretty neat. I think that's pretty inspiring.
Mhm,
So what, if you could identify the most important things that helped you, because there's so many diets out there,
mhm,
uh,
mhm,
uh, but you have to probably identify the diet that is right for you. And I don't mean going on a diet. I mean
mhm.
the nutritional food eating plan
Yeah.
because diet has such a strange connotation. People think,
Yes.
oh, are you on a diet? Or
Mhm.
no, what are you eating? What's your food plan?
Yes.
So if you could identify, I know diet played a big part, but any other important things that helped you with your, change and adaptation to all these newer habits?
Yeah. So I'm going to be totally transparent that when I started digging in and learning, I kept being brought to this YouTube channel. This is where I made this massive discovery about what I was doing to my body in terms of my food choices. And it was Dr. Berg. He was all about healthy ketosis and intermittent fasting. Um, and so I'm not in a state of ketosis. I don't think I have been in a couple of years. So I haven't, continued on that food plan. However, I feel that for me at the time, it was this massive reset. And the most important thing from that reset of implementing healthy ketosis and intermittent fasting at the time was the fact that I rid myself, my diet, of the trifecta of ultra processed foods
Mhm,
and then incorporated healthy fats, more protein, and eliminated what no longer was what's not providing my body with any nutritional value. And so whether you smack a label on it of keto or paleo or whatever, for me it's really ensuring that your food plan has the nutrients and the sustenance with healthy proteins and fats to get you through. And that was huge for me because I always felt I was a slave to my food, where I would be hungry in between meals. I'd have to have snacks in my purse to kind of get me through. Otherwise, I'd feel lightheaded and dizzy. And it was like my blood sugar levels were totally out of whack.
mhm,
So, switching that over to whole foods, also making sure I was hydrated. I also believe probably the dizziness and the lightheadedness was a result of being dehydrated. And not just that I wasn't consuming enough water. I think I was consuming quite a bit of water. The big thing for me was incorporating a good quality salt. So an unrefined salt, typically a sea salt that has trace minerals and electrolytes in it.
mhm.
That was huge for me. And so starting every day, so for the past 6 years now, no matter what kind of mood I'm in, I always set the day with, well, I've incorporated a couple of really healthy habits and it's evolved over the past couple of years. But for the past 6 years, I start my day with hydrating myself with good filtered water, the good quality salt, lemon, apple cider vinegar sometimes, but now I think I'm changing that up a little bit. But I've been very consistent with hydrating my body in the morning because, as many of us know, we detox overnight, we become dehydrated, and so it's important to replenish our electrolytes, hydrate our cells in the morning. And so that's definitely a healthy habit. And I feel that a lot of us that have experienced kind of hunger pains or cravings, it's often due to the fact that we are just dehydrated, from the processed foods, from the poor nutrient dense foods that we're not getting in. And so making that switch over has been profound for me to be able to
That's
get proper hydration.
right. And I think it's important to tune in to whether you're hungry or
Mhm.
thirsty. And often people are thirsty, but they eat something instead, thinking
Yes,
they're hungry. You
that's
know,
right.
so definitely that's an important piece. Um,
Yes.
if you could, Beth, identify maybe three things that led to your success in the healthy weight loss, or uh, I prefer to say weight management
Mhm.
instead of weight
Yes.
loss, although everybody is looking for weight loss, but really it's
Yes.
about management of your weight.
Mhm.
What would you say those three success factors were, the keys
Yeah,
to success?
sure. You know, the keys for success, I feel, for anybody who's wanting to make a change in their life, whether it's weight, whether it's, I don't know, relationships, or whether it's, becoming a new entrepreneur, business person, or just making a change for the better. I do think that the first thing is acknowledgement. So your consciousness. So being aware of how you got to your current state. So for me, with, being able to own it, being able to acknowledge how I got to that, 60 pounds of overweight that I was in. How did I get there? um, and not playing victim mode, but just understanding, how did I get there? Okay, now I'm realizing that maybe the information that I have received during my lifetime isn't actually true in terms of, what a healthy food plan or healthy diet looks like. The fact that just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean it's true. So acknowledging, so it's this conscious awareness of how you got to your current state. The second thing is making a deliberate choice. So the change, right? Making a deliberate change in your life because you are now conscious and aware, and you're able to make this change to move forward and change the trajectory of your life. And then third thing I would say is consistency. So committing to that change with your long-term vision in mind. I think many of us are stuck in this kind of childhood mindset. We have this instant gratification. I feel, many of us, and we don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to step out of our comfort zone. It's not comfortable. So I think, putting on our big girl pants and our big boy pants and committing to something that we feel passionate about, keeping our long-term vision in mind. It's not about a short-term fix. It's not about feeling uncomfortable in the moment. It's really about setting your sights on envisioning who and what you want to become. And so just making that commitment, and making those simple choices every single day, keeping that long-term vision in mind.
Well, I think that's a great set of things that you've covered. And I think, it will help people on their journeys. Do you have any final words of wisdom for anybody that is struggling with weight-related issues?
Yeah, I would say, and I will, I mean, one of the challenges that I did experience, so while I felt this empowerment, I knew that I was in control, for the most part, being in the comfort of my own home. When I would step out into a group setting, it's hard for us not to go with the flow, to go against the herd, and to be pressured into, eating something we may not want to eat, so there is a huge amount of pressure being, a human being. We're all about going along to get along. We see this in many areas of our life. It's hard to um, speak out when we know that, the majority may not feel the same way. And
Mhm.
even in as simple as a restaurant setting or a social gathering. And it's not even, when I think back to some of those situations that I was in, it's not even that I was necessarily tempted to eat what they were eating. It was more about the pressure of, not partaking in what they were partaking in, and them, either questioning me on it or feeling uncomfortable. And so I just feel, having this resolve or having the strength to, stay steadfast in what you truly want to achieve and not to be worried about what other people think, what other people say, and that takes strength. I think that that takes consciousness again to understand that we are all, just herd animals, going along to get along, as I mentioned. So being aware of that, and I think mentally preparing for that when you're out in a public setting, at least that was one of my biggest challenges. When I felt like I had everything dialed in at home in the comfort of my own home, when I would step out, it seemed to be a different story. So I understand now the power of group pressure and societal conditioning, and it's a tricky one. So I just encourage you to, remind yourself of your goals, remind yourself that, what you want to achieve, and to really be to find strength in that.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there are layers and layers of conditioning that we have. You know, we have parental conditioning, religious conditioning, we have social conditioning, institutional conditioning. It just goes on and on. And slowly you've got to get rid of these layers first by becoming consciously aware that, hey, oh, I was told that this is all good, you know,
Yes,
yeah,
right.
and that kind of thing. So, yeah, listen, Beth, you're a very inspiring person. I am
Thank you.
so congratulations, really, on,
Thank you.
making this transformation. And literally, it is a transformation when you look at the picture, of
Mhm.
somebody who was not managing their weight appropriately and had all the signs. Often you see people that are overweight, but you don't know what they're going through.
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
you don't know that they have pain, they have this, they have all kinds of issues, and they don't need to be that way. You can
Yes.
make a change.
Yes,
So
definitely.
there is hope out there, and you're a testimonial to that. So I really appreciate you coming here. What an honor, and much more success to you. For anybody that's interested in her contact information, I will put it in the show notes. So again, thank you very much, Beth, for
Thank you so
doing
much.
this
Thank you so much.
podcast.
I'm honored. I'm honored to be on this program, and I'm excited about your work and what you are doing, and spreading awareness and knowledge to people out there. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Bye-bye now. Thanks everyone for watching, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe.